morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Marcia Graff, President and CEO of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. Oh. Okay, that was my mic. I'm sorry. You don't need my mic. You can hear me. So good morning, everyone. I'm Marcia Graff, President and CEO of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to our energy efficiency panel this morning. We have wonderful guests with us, and I thank them so much for taking the time to be with us. Our first guest is Joe Tabeling. He's a Senior Associate of CQI Associates. He will discuss the deregulated electric and natural gas markets, the present 14-year high rates, and the scary forecasted future market conditions. He'll also explain the Chamber's member benefit energy co-op program, how it works for both home and business, owners and staff, and the historical savings seen by participating people. CQI Associates is one of the top 3 energy and sustainable management firms in the United States, as well as the largest procurement broker on the East Coast, procuring over $1.5 billion annually. Our next speaker is Bill Ellis, the Regional Vice President of Governmental and External Affairs at Pepco, and he will discuss Pepco's climate and sustainability goals, along with their award-winning energy efficiency programs. Pepco was approved to continue to implement energy efficiency programs in Prince George's and Montgomery County through the end of 2023. Pepco's new suite of EE programs are designed to reduce overall energy usage by 2% a year across the service territory, which is a significant contribution to the overall reduction in greenhouse gas emissions for the state and county. Pepco has designed a suite of innovation programs to improve comfort, reduce usage, and create equity for residential customers, small businesses, and commercial buildings across the service territory. Tom Deyo is the CEO of Montgomery County Green Bank. He'll be speaking to the benefits of energy efficiency and renewable energy to property and business owners to save money through energy improvements, and to the several financing structures that the Green Bank now has in place to help owners and businesses to undertake these measures. The Green Bank has increased its product offerings in the last year to now include CPs, Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy, a commercial loan for larger products, a small business loan offering more flexibilities for small to medium-sized projects, and a solar PV program that offers no out-of-pocket costs and operating cost benefits. So we're going to talk with Joe first from CQI Associates, and he'll explain his program in 15 minutes, and then we'll go over to Will from Pepco, and then we'll end with Tom. And if there's any Q&A, we'll save that for the end. And okay, Joe, over to you.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody here and on Zoom. Let me first start off by saying that I'm going to try to avoid sounding like Debbie Downer or Chicken Little, the Sky's Falling. I think that everybody's aware of what's going on in the market. We're seeing gas prices climbing, food prices are climbing. Utility prices are no different, and I'll get into that in a second as to what is contributing to those increases in growth. But just so everybody is on board on the same level, back in 2002, a law was passed in Maryland and actually in 17 other states, deregulating the supply portion of our utility bills, both on the home and business scale, which gave everybody the opportunity of shopping various suppliers for either electricity or natural gas. There are a lot of different suppliers that are out there, and you can take hours and hours out of your schedule to shop all those suppliers and actually create a spreadsheet to write down all the different programs you have available, all the different pricing that's available to you for your home or for your business. You can even go to the extent of doing a 3-year market analysis to figure out, okay, what's the conditions now and what's the conditions going to be 3 years from now? And then looking at all that and making a determination of what supplier, what rate, and what term to go with. But at the end of the day, you're still leaving money on the table. Because as an individual business or an individual homeowner, you don't have the same buying power as a Walmart or a Northern Run. Our program that we provide to this chamber and actually 22 other chambers around the state works on the principle of aggregated buying tools. So what we do is we take everyone's usage from all of the chambers, combine it together, and we use that leverage, and we go out on your behalf and shop every supplier that's in the market, taking the attitude of no stone unturned and no pennies left on the table. We come back with a rate lower than what you get on your own. The savings that you will see easily equals your highest 1 month bill in a 12-month period. And that's for both your business or food. And a lot of times it's even more than that. It's for you, your family. If you have staff, it's for them and their family. There's no enrollment fees. It costs nothing to do it. It's a no-brainer. It easily covers 99% of the time, if you're a member of the chamber, your membership dues. So all the incredible benefits the chamber provides, you're now getting for free. Folks that have staff, they're all working hard. A lot more working from home now. They're not being compensated for their extra expenses on their utility bills. Here's a way of basically giving them a yearly bonus without any money out of your pocket. So it's a win-win situation. The bill isn't going to change. You're still going to get a bill from Pepco. Or you're with BG&E. You're still going to get that same bill. It's just going to be paying a lower rate. You can still do budget billing. You can still do peak rewards. None of that changes. You're just going to be saving money. That's the most important thing. What we would suggest, however, you've done that, is learn how to reduce your consumption now. That's the biggest issue right now, is consumption levels. And you're going to hear from these other two gentlemen. We're all thinking the same way. Climate, sustainability, gas house emissions, looking at every way of reducing our consumption on a residential level and a business level. So it's a win-win situation all the way around. When they deregulated, it used to be 25 to 30% savings just between reducing your rate that you were paying. That's not the case. It's about 10 to 12%. But you can get the additional savings, which would be up to 25, 30% total, by taking advantage of other programs that are around there, helping to reduce your usage level, your consumption level, both at home and at work. You can see there's higher savings. The market right now is crazy. It's the best way I can describe it. The rates that we're seeing right now, we haven't seen in over 14 years. We're looking at a 100% increase in natural gas prices compared to last year, and a 65% increase in electricity compared to last year. And all the indicators are forecasting a continual rise in both of those for the next 6 to 8 months. Good news is we see light at the end of the tunnel, which is great, but we got to get through that hump. There are ways of getting through that hump, putting a Band-Aid on the bleeding, and getting us to that point. So we can definitely help folks with that. For the folks that are environmentally conscious, there are solar programs that are available, and we're after this as well. So there are opportunities out there that you can save money. There's opportunities out there that can get through these turbulent times. It's just a matter of either writing an email or picking up the phone and calling us. It's that simple. There's no pressure. There's no sales pitch or anything like that. We're here to educate. We're here to help. It's that simple. So with that, I will shut up and pass it on to my constituents.
Thank you. Great presentation, by the way. It had a lot of thoughts in my head and actually kind of changed the way I want to take this conversation a little bit. Energy, as you said, was deregulated back in 2002. And what does that really mean in terms of how it impacts you as a business owner or residential customer and your utility? And so what that meant for Pepco is that we no longer produce or sell energy. So there's three parts of your bills that you will receive, all on one bill, by the way. There's your generation cost of the bill, is the actual energy that is made, that is produced. Either that's, clean energy, which is wind, solar, other renewables, or is natural gas plants, coal plants. Those are the generation assets within the industry. At Pepco, we do not own generation. Like when we deregulated back in 2001, we sold all of our generation assets. And then the other two parts of your bills is related to the transmission and the distribution of energy. And those are the two parts of your bill that Pepco actually controls, is regulated by the Maryland Public Service Commission. And so when we talk about the makeup of your bill, a lot of customers don't know that on average, 70% of the bill that you receive from Pepco is generation costs. So if your bill is $100 a month, $70 of that bill is generation costs, in terms of what he's referring to in terms of where you see price fluctuations and increases related to that bill. Now, the great thing about Pepco and what we do, and we'll talk about energy efficiency, is that in the state of Maryland, we are a decoupled state. And decoupled means that Pepco no longer makes money based on energy usage. What we are allowed to collect from the Public Service Commission is based on the need to maintain the reliability and resiliency of the grid, not based on how much customers use. So that allows us to be uniquely positioned to be able to help our customers save energy, because we don't care how much energy you use. We actually want you to save less. That is an interesting misconception that a lot of our customers have, that we want you to use more energy. No, Pepco doesn't want you to use more energy. It doesn't allow us to make any more money if you use more or less energy. What it does allow is these generation companies to make more money. But we are regulated by the Maryland Public Service Commission, and our revenues are fixed. And so we actually are incentivized by the Maryland Public Service Commission to help our customers reduce their energy. And that's where these energy efficiency programs come into play. And, I have Elizabeth Hinchman in the back here. She is one of our fabulous program managers that oversees our commercial and industrial programs. So thanks for coming, Elizabeth. And I have Tammy Watkins here, board member of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce and a manager of our external affairs from Pepco that knows these programs very well. But what I like to start off from an energy efficiency perspective is the great thing about energy efficiency, and why I just love this conversation so much in this topic related to energy efficiency, as it doesn't require you to do anything different as a business. Energy efficiency says you can use energy the exact same way you've always been using it, but through technology, through building improvements, we can save you money. So I'm not asking you to turn your thermostat down or turn off your lights or make anyone uncomfortable in your restaurant. I'm saying allow the technology to help you save money, which is really cool. So that is something that we really like to explain to our customers and even our homeowners, that new technology, the easiest thing to look at is LED lights, right? Just by replacing the LED light from an incandescent bulb, you're going to save 70% of your lighting costs. But I'm not asking you to turn off the lights, use it even less or different, like take out a reading light or something. I'm not asking any of that. I'm just saying change the technology and you'll be able to save money. And so our incentives come into play is that on average, we try to pay around 50 to 70% of the total project cost to actually incentivize you to do those improvements. I was talking to Tom earlier when we were talking about the incremental cost, but I was actually reading it's actually 50 to 70% of the total cost of the project. So on average, if you do a lighting retrofit that may be $10,000 for your restaurant to go to LED, on average, we're going to pay $5,000 to $7,000 to allow you to make that change and bring that payback down. In a lot of cases, especially for lighting, you see payback on the average of about 2 years, 2.5 years. So that means you made the money back through energy savings that you spent on a project in 2 years. And then for every year after that, and typically your lighting projects will last you 15 to 20 years, every year after that, you're just saving money that can be reinvested in your business, reinvested in the community, go into hiring new employees or growing your business. So really important work that we're doing. And lastly, I'll turn it over to Tom just to go over some of our programs. But we have so many programs that we lead, and I won't highlight all of them. But really, I think the call to action is to say that if you are looking at saving money in your home or business, call us and we'll help find the right program for you. We do have what is called a small business program. Our small business program focuses on customers that use less than 100 kW a month. So our mom and pop stores, our corner stores, our churches, those are typical small business customers. And then we have higher incentives for those customers up to 70% to allow them to save even more money. And then we do a lot of work with them, helping them through the application process, helping them to understand the program, because we know small business owners, their parents, their CFOs, their CEO, they're everything in the community as well. And so we know everyone's extremely busy. So we try to make it as easy as possible for our customers to participate. But along with that small business program, we have what is called a small business energy advance. It's almost a financing tube at 0%. So as I just talked about, if a project costs $10,000 and then our incentives will cover $7,000, okay, how do I pay for the other $3,000, right? And maybe you have the cash flow, maybe you don't. But we have a program now that says you can put that $3,000 on your Pepco bill over 5 years at 0% interest. Not at 10%, not at 5%, 0% interest. It's like free money almost, right? You're just giving free money. In a lot of cases, what we're able to do, and Elizabeth will tell you this as well, we're able to generate positive cash flow day one because of that. So you install the LED lights. Typically, you'll save about 20% on your bill. And because you're able to leverage a 0% financing, your Pepco bill is usually less than what you would be paying on your financing charge. So when you look at the cash flow for this business, they actually come out saving money right away from doing these energy efficiency measures, similar to procuring cleaner energy and the buy-down rate. So definitely great opportunities. We do have a large commercial program. We have a retro commissioning program for buildings that have like this new technology, but they're not really sure how to use it or not gaining the most benefits out of the program. So we have retro commissioning where experts will come in, look at how you're managing your energy, looking at where the thermostat temperatures are set. We went into a bank recently, and on the weekends when the bank was closed, they were still having their lights cut on automatically, their air conditioning was dropping the temperature down when no one was in the building. They were just using about 15% of their monthly energy costs was being used on the weekends when no one was there, because they have these automatic programs just set up and running. And so we'll come in, look and find things. We have experts that are just great for finding those sorts of improvements and be able to save customers right away. So I'll talk a little bit more later, but I definitely want to turn it over to Tom and talk more about the Montgomery County Green Bank. So thank you.
Thank you, William. Margie, thanks for having me. Joe, William. This is a right spot on this panel. I can feed off of everything that came before, and I feel like last time we did this, we didn't quite have as much on the table as I think that's going on now, drivers and programs and so forth. And I'll get into the Green Bank and some of the advancements we've made. But, in a quick order, the Montgomery County Green Bank, we're a nonprofit. We were established by the county, and our job is to stimulate investment in clean energy, renewable energy programs and outcomes for property owners in the county, be them homeowners, be them commercial businesses. Our job is to kind of fill the gap where Pepco can't quite play, and to undertake larger jobs and support renewable and energy efficiency. So we're a bit in a different place today than we were back a couple years ago. We've been around for 4 years and taken the time to sort of develop a series of products that now can fill the gaps that we were identifying back then. And we now have quite a suite of products to do that. But to pivot off of some of the information that was done prior, there are a lot of drivers now too that are in the market that weren't here just a couple years ago. The one that's been there for a while is the county does have this very large, aggressive greenhouse gas reduction goal to get to 0% by 2035. That 2035 keeps getting closer, and the 0% needs to get there, right? So there's a lot of drivers there. And the county just released its own climate action plan just this June. They took a year plus to develop it, community meetings and so forth. And they put together quite a comprehensive plan in order to reach that 0% goal. It includes buildings in there, includes transportation, includes stormwater management. There's a lot of energy components in there. And there's a substantial component of equity in there too, which is to say everybody has to participate and benefit from this energy reduction that needs to occur. The county's introducing the International Green Construction Code. That's going to bring a whole other series of requirements for anything that's undertaken as new construction in the county, and ups the ante in terms of the kind of property you need to bring online, in terms of its energy savings and energy footprint. The other that the county is just now presently introducing, which is part of the climate action plan, are building energy performance standards. These are for current properties, and they're intended to sort of take properties from where they are and slowly grow reduce their energy footprint and grow their energy savings. In so doing it, it's just being introduced into the county, and it'll take probably a little bit of time to work it through. If it passes, it'll set in place a series of milestones that property owners need to achieve in order to increase their energy, or reduce their energy footprint and increase their savings. And then what Joe was just talking about, this rising price of energy is going to create even a greater stimulus into sort of looking at this. Heretofore, it's been sort of this voluntary place, and people have looked at it. The price of energy may not have been exactly where people felt the pain point. They're now going to start to feel more of a pain point. Energy efficiency, energy savings will become even more important to their operating bottom line. And so I think we'll begin to see not only the building energy performance standard being a driver, but also this rising price of electricity and gas will also create an emphasis to sort of address their systems where they may be inefficient. And the last, coming out of this pandemic, is, people that occupy spaces are more aware of what's going on in that space. How's the air being treated? How's the facility being handled? Are the systems old? Do they handle the right filtration? A lot of property owners have taken and undertaken steps in order to create more benefits of their indoor air quality. But that's another driver just coming out of this pandemic. It plays into energy efficiency because generally you put those kind of systems in, they also have higher energy efficiency components to them. So a lot of drivers pushing on sort of property owners and businesses to do it. I think Will spoke to it, right? Okay, I got this expense. I've got to pay for this expense. How do I cover that expense? Well, take a piece of the incentives, right? And if it's 50% or whatever it might be, you want to run at that right quickly, because we always, from the beginning, have said free money is the best money. Go after the free money first, and then figure out what you have to do after that. But when you introduce that higher energy efficiency component, you're going to automatically begin to see those savings benefits. You're going to see even more of them if the price of electricity is going up, the greater that savings is going to look. And that savings benefit can fall to the bottom line, but if you choose that you want to preserve your cash and instead finance that energy savings can be thought of as the cover for that cost of that improvement. And therefore, your bottom line doesn't change, but your energy savings changes, and over time, you eventually get that after that has been paid off. So we found a lot of businesses were early on willing to put cash out because that was actually a nice return they were getting. They could cash out, look at that energy savings as their benefit. Today's time, I think cash is a little more dear. It's something that needs to be preserved to run your business. How do I get to that energy savings? Well, you get to it by financing it and using that savings you're going to get to pay for that financing. You not only have improved your property, improved the indoor air quality, you also haven't changed your bottom line. And you preserve your cash. So there's a lot of opportunity, and that's where the Montgomery County Green Bank fits in. We were here established in order to create offerings in the marketplace. We partner with other financial partners out there to make those offerings. We're not a bank, even though we're a green bank. We actually stand behind other financial institutions, let them do the legwork of the underwriting and the financing. And if there's something were to go wrong, that's where the green bank steps in and supports those institutions. But we've got now a suite of products that actually building owners can participate in. The county had a commercial PACE program, Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, which allows property owners to undertake clean energy and finance it through a surcharge on their tax bill. You're basically taking out a loan and paying it back through your tax bill. You can get 20-year financing from that, low cost, because basically you're secured to the property. It's a great way to look at large-scale improvements and to finance them through that program. We're now managing and running that program, and so we're out there marketing it and selling it, and we're seeing a lot more interest in property owners of taking advantage of this. It's good long-term financing and at a good rate, and it allows you to almost be hands-off in terms of payments. It just comes through the tax bill. Some property owners don't want to put something more on their property. They don't want to put something onto the tax bill. They'd rather keep the property liens clean. And that's where our commercial loan for energy efficiency and renewables comes in. It was the program we originally went out with. It could go out to 12 years. We do it with other private capital lenders in the community. And it can be secured to the equipment as opposed to secured to the building. So now you don't have a new lien on the property. You simply have it on the equipment. You don't pay. They take the equipment, but they don't take your building. It's a nice. It's a cleaner look. And we're working with community banks in order to deliver that. When the pandemic came around, we introduced a small business program, small business energy savings support program. We were trying to pair up with the PEPCO program where we saw where their limit was a couple of years and 0%. We felt, well, maybe property owners need to go out further than that. Our program will go out to 7 years. We put a much more part of our capital into it so we can be highly flexible in this. We can go for credits that others might not feel is quite as credit worthy. We can go out a longer term. And we've had a couple of uses of that for some small businesses to pick that up. And then the last one we've just done is a commercial solar power purchase agreement. This gets to the renewable energy side, which is no out-of-pocket installation of renewable on your property. You basically lease your roof to a third-party installer. They bring the financing. We're part of that financing. They deliver the solar to the roof. You enter into a contract to take a reduced price on the kilowatt hours generated from that system compared to what the utility rate would be for that. And now you've got an operating cost benefit. You put nothing out of pocket, and you're contributing to the renewable energy marketplace. We just introduced that just this spring. We have particular benefits for nonprofits. We've got about 15 we're working with right now that are looking at doing this on their own property. So it's a solar array on your property. You don't put anything out of pocket. You get the operating cost benefit, and someone else brings all the money, including us. Can't do better than that, right? And then the last thing that we've done is we do technical assistance. We found that property owners sometimes don't know their way through to those benefits. There are installers out there that can be a benefit and have, do that. But we've also found sometimes the property owners just want some unbiased input into how do I do this? What's the approach? What can be the assessment of what's there? What can be done? What the savings are? And so we've done a little bit of that just to see what that generates. And we've had a number of property owners take us up on that. We did it. We covered the cost for a few of those in order to just see what that looks like. In a couple instances, we'll just be helpful advisors. Last time we did this, there was a small business that came to us and said, hey, we have responsibility for the HVAC on our roof. We don't know how we're going to do this. We got a bid. We gave them about 3 different installers. They went out. They got a better bid, and they ended up undertaking the project, or they got a good chunk of PEPCO incentives because we said, get some money. They got some money, covered a good chunk of the cost. They didn't end up using ours. They ended up using their own cash because they had some available. But we were able to provide benefit to them in terms of learning more about the market, getting a better price, getting to the PEPCO incentives. So, we're getting success out there. We've had a couple others in the background here. We just worked with on our commercial loan for energy efficiency renewables. We just did a loan with the only ale house that's now reopening. It had a fire, but they took advantage of the fire to do energy efficiency improvements. So we just made a loan to them so they can reopen some more indoor air quality features there. And we're just working with another small business here in downtown Silver Spring that the International Green Construction Code has come to play for them because they're trying to do more in their property. It had an impact on them. They had to do more energy efficiency than they intended. And we're providing the loan to them in order to undertake that energy efficiency. So we got a lot going on. I think we're sort of on our reintroduction tour, because if you knew us in 2020, we're not that green bank. We're a much different green bank in 2021 with a whole suite of products. We also have a homeowner product, but this wasn't a homeowner group. So please re-engage with us, learn more about what we have going, but we're a much different enterprise than we were just a year ago. in terms of what we brought to the table. So thank you, and we'll go to Q&A. So Joe,
Yes.
give us a little bit more. What's the drivers behind this sort of increase going on here?
Well, one of the things you have to keep in mind, years and years ago, most electricity was generated through using coal. Obviously, that's the cleanest way of generating any kind of coal. Nowadays, 85% of electricity is generated through the use of natural gas. The challenge that we're running into right now is the inventory and what's affecting the inventory. Well, one of the things we have to keep in mind from years ago is that natural gas is a commodity in the stock market. So you've got shareholders who learn about keeping that value in that stock up. So they watch how much inventory is generated. The United States is the largest producer of natural gas. So what has been affecting the inventory levels over the last couple of years has been a couple of things. First off, weather. We're seeing more hurricanes. We're seeing more hurricanes in the Gulf, where are the majority of the generation plants in the Gulf, Texas, Louisiana. So every time there's a hurricane there, it shuts the plants down. That shuts down production. That reduces the amount of natural gas that's going through the pipelines. That's an issue. We had the hottest summer on record. More electricity, that rises the pricing. They're calling for a very cold winter, just like we had last year. That's going to cause more strain on the inventory. Europe used to buy the natural gas from Russia. They no longer do that. It's no longer in the market. Natural gas per the decatherm, as I use is going basically for $20 a decatherm, which is basically $2 a barrel. In the United States, that same decatherm is $2 or 20 cents. So where do you think the manufacturers are putting their natural gas? They're putting it onto containers and shipping it overseas. That's putting further strain on the inventory. So you have this challenge right now of supply and demand. And until things level out, and one of the other factors is COVID. We can't forget that. I mean, more and more people are working from home. You have more businesses that are opening back up again. So we're now having more demand in both sectors, virtually 24/7. The forecast, they're showing that right around April, things will start to level off and prices will start to become more palatable. That's what I can describe it. But it's going to be probably at least 3 to 4 years before we see any kind of what we would say normalcy, getting rates into price points that we saw pre-COVID type of situation. But until then, we gotta ride it out. That's the best way I can describe it. But that's what's controlling. We can't control the weather. It is what it is. We can control COVID by how much usage we have, taking advantage of programs that are out there. That's what we as individuals can do, is reduce that consumption. That's how everybody can participate. The businesses are doing it, but now we got to get the homeowners. And, sometimes it's a tough battle, especially if you've got teenagers. But that's what's going on.
One of the early criticisms of the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan was that tenets of the plan would be onerous for businesses, would add expense to the cost of doing business in Montgomery County, and that for some business leaders was a non-starter. I'm wondering if anybody on the panel can offer any comment relative to your awareness around those issues or your thoughts around any activities that are established in the Climate Action Plan that small businesses maybe should consider as they're sort of wading this new world that we're moving
first.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Sustainability, being concerned about the climate, is on everybody's mind. And it's a tough battle. It really is. It's a tough battle for homeowners, it's a tough battle for businesses, it's a tough battle for everybody trying to do the right things. The challenge, one of the challenges with this bill is that as of, if I remember correctly, May of 2023, anybody that lives in Montgomery County will be automatically opt into a energy co-op. When you go into the energy co-op, the government, municipality, will control the rate that you're going to pay. You have to opt out of it. Okay, now if you're already with a third-party supplier, you're fine. No problem. And we encourage folks, whether you work with the Chambers program or do it on your own, but definitely try. I would say try to get hooked up with a third-party supplier intelligently, effectively, so that you don't automatically get opt-in. The challenge with getting opt-in automatically is we forget that. And when that happens, now it's too late. It's easy to opt out right off the bat, but to do it afterwards, you're going to have a lot of stipulations that you're going to have to work with. So we think that everybody should be aware of that situation. It's with anything, there's good points and bad points. In this particular case, it's bad. We know several municipalities throughout the state, throughout the country, that have initiated this, and it's come back to cause higher prices. You have to keep in mind that renewable energy costs more to produce electricity than using coal and natural gas. It is what it is. It's research and development that's going into that price. So when that bill takes effect, we may be looking anywhere from 0.5 cent to a penny more per kilowatt automatically, and you have no control. So that's what you have to be aware of. We just learned last week of a municipality in Illinois that stipulated that every business and every homeowner had to do a certain level of 100% energy within 24 months. It's so rigorous as far as the stipulations that 3 of the biggest producers of jobs in that community, one of them, we work with all 3, one of which employs 18,000 people, are talking about moving their business out of state. Because there's no way they can meet all the obligations, especially within that time frame. So that's one of the things we have to be concerned about. That's a risk that Montgomery County now has. If a business can't meet those demands, if you're going to stick around, no, they're going to move into another county. So that's the issue that we're.
I think I would say the county's climate action plan is a pretty broad, comprehensive strategy to achieve some substantial environmental goals that I think we all see are essential, right? I think we're all facing the climate change that's out there, right? We're seeing more floods. We had our own flood in this county that unfortunately took a life, and it's just, the reality is it's not going to change. We're not on a reversed course yet. In order to reverse course, we have to take some drastic actions. And I think the county's climate action plan is a guidance to that. And I would say, given where the current energy prices are going, that maybe they were a little prescient in thinking about they needed to get there sooner than later. in that I think the other counties and other jurisdictions are going to have to find their way to address energy efficiency, renewable energy, in the same way that the county's climate action plan is promoting it, because they're going to be faced with the need to do it. So I think, in a way, the county got ahead of the curve, and the programs that are out there and the responses that businesses need to do are going to be ones they're going to have to naturally do anyway. The county's just promoting it more now. The programs are out there. The Green Bank is out there. The PEPCO incentives are out there. There's means to get there. Not to say that that's not an impact on small businesses and so forth, but as we just walked through the economics of it, this can be undertaken in a way that doesn't have those necessary economic costs associated with it. If you look for the PEPCO money, use the Green Bank money, use other incentives, you can accomplish it within the budgets you have. And I think you're going to find other jurisdictions are going to be a little bit behind in terms of being able to speak to a reputation that the Montgomery County has as terms of a clean energy, a place to live and work. And I think there's a strong benefits in the county's perception and reputation that it will have. So I think there's a lot in that plan that gives ideas of where to go, and the county's putting a lot of components behind it in order to help achieve those goals.
Couldn't say it more.
Good question. Yes, ma'am.
So the building energy performance standard law that they're trying to pass, I'm sorry I was a little late, maybe to cover this. Is that what you're talking about with the 18,000 businesses? Do you think if they pass that law, that businesses will go to like Virginia or
From our experience, what we find is that it's like anything else. There has to be a compromise. There has to be, we all have goals, and we want to meet those goals. With reaching a level of sustainability that is attainable by all. Watching how much of a requirements in a restricted time period, instead of making it maybe 2 years, make it 5 years. So it's more palatable for a business to be able to obtain. That would be the compromise. But in some cases, and every situation is different, nobody's trying to put a business out of business. Nobody's trying to eliminate jobs. Everybody has the same goals because there's certain, I want to say certain factors, certain nudging in certain directions that causes folks to think one way compared to another way. And anytime bills are being passed, this is my personal opinion, when bills are being passed, you have to look at both sides. You have to look at the mom and pop, that's wanting a business, major manufacturer, what's good for the homeowner, the residents, and what's good for the community. When you just look at what's good for the community, it starts to hurt people over here. So you've got to look at all. Sometimes it's a challenge. Our personal belief is that the situation that is happening in Illinois is because of the strict guidelines that they created, and they try to accomplish going from basically 0 to 100% renewable energy in 24 months, and all the different things that have to be implemented into businesses to obtain that isn't cost effective. We're just coming out, not really completely, but we're just coming out of a pandemic where businesses were shut down. To put that kind of strain on a business is not feasible. So I think that the bill makes sense, and I think that what everybody's trying to achieve makes sense, but you need to make sure that it's attainable in a cost-effective way that allows the businesses still to run the business, still to be profitable, and still to employ their staff.
Yeah, I would. Good question on the. I think the county has taken a an awareness around that issue of stepping it up. And if the bill itself presents an idea that it's not a one-time shot and be done. It looks actually, as a movement over a 20-year period, and try to incrementally get to the place that you want to be, as opposed to one step jump into that, which some of the building energy performance standards in other jurisdictions sort of set that up that way. The Montgomery County one took that into account, and in their conversations with the business community, realized that might not be the best approach, and that thinking about moving in milestones and moving in a direction, and at the end of the 20-year period, you kind of get to where you want to be. And so I think that takes into awareness of how businesses invest, how they invest over time, how they gradually make improvements occur. So I think the county's building energy performance standards takes that into account and tries to work with property owners and businesses so that it's not you have to take one big bite and then you're done. You can take actual incremental bites to achieve it. And even if you can't, you can come up with a plan about how you're going to get there if it just doesn't necessarily work out for you in the current period, as long as you've got a plan and you've submitted your plan of how you get there. So I think it is a very business aware, business conscious sort of approach to how to introduce that kind of legislation.
I just have a comment on that. Maybe a question too, like you said, renewable energy is expensive. It takes time to establish or to change a company or a business that's been operating at a different level. I'm glad in Montgomery County we have a nonprofit that is already put in place to help with that. If the transition is going through, it does take time. With all that changes in the business community or in the business environment, for example, our recent crisis with COVID, these things are always kind of put on the back burner. We don't focus as much. How are we creating that balance between the county, between legislations, between nonprofits, and between our suppliers to make our community aware that, hey, this is here for you. We can get through this crisis too, and this is where you can save money, and there are resources available. These are such great resources for businesses to be able to get that financing. With everybody involved, and I'm looking at your project with the big building, the condominium complex. I mean, there are so many partners to that project. But I don't see that very often. We don't see that very often. How do we, how is that balance being created for us?
If you're looking for how do we get the word out, I think that's what the question is. Well, we're trying to find as many avenues and venues like this in order to do it. And I think the county, with its climate action plan, is putting a lot into the sort of the educational component of it. We've increased our staff in order to do more of that outreach, get more of that education going in the community. So it is at that point where we need to grow that education and find as many venues that we can do it in. We've done a number of webinars. We're doing another one this afternoon. We got another one later this week. We've talked to as many associations as we can. And what we found, it's a great question, every time we do one of those, 3 more light bulbs go out with the people that you're talking to, right? So if you can continue to do those 3 more light bulbs, you get it out there, right? Heretofore, a lot of the education has been through, PEPCO has done it through its sort of services. The contractors go out, they do it through their sort of one-on-one engagement. We're trying to up that ante to try to do it in a more community sort of minded approach too, so that we can inform more. We see part of our job is not just sort of selling our product offerings, but doing just that. Why does this make sense? How does it get paid for? How do the benefits convey? And we found that particular example there at Tacoma Overlook. We did a video on that in order to sort of create opportunity for people to learn not what the Green Bank did, but how that actual association did that job. And we get that out there. So I think more and more of those educational tools need to be done in order to get people the awareness, because businesses are buried in their business, which is where they should be focused, right? They don't think about the sort of operational, the building owners do because that's their business, but the businesses inside them don't necessarily. So how do we educate, how do we inform is incredibly important. because they need to sort of see that part and not have to learn it in its entirety, but learn about what can be done and what tools are available to them to make that change in their business. The one that other one in there that's in Silver Spring, we spent hours working with that business owner to help them understand what they were up against, bring them the installer so that they could learn how to make that improvement, and then eventually how to finance it. That's what it is. It's a lot of that work.
And the other thing that you have to remember is that it's like anything else out there. We as human beings really don't look into things or evaluate things or educate ourselves about things until it's necessary. You take, for instance, a traffic light at an intersection. Nobody really gets concerned about having a traffic light up until there's so many accidents. Nobody's really gotten concerned about the climate until we've had all these hurricanes, had this excessive hot weather, excessive cold weather. Now it's on everybody's mind. Until it's on everybody's mind, it doesn't, all of this education's been here for years. But if people don't have an open mind to listen to it and learn from it, it's talking on that news. So the advantage that we have right now, to a degree, is that it is on everybody's mind. The climate issue, it's right there. So by having the educational resources that have been there for years, and then opening up even more platforms for people to be able to hear and learn about what is going on and different ways of protecting their family or protecting their business, it's there, it's available. And with everybody being open to that education, you'll see changes. I remember 10 years ago, a little bit longer, when people started talking about electric cars. I go, what are electric cars? Give me a break. I went in one ear and out the other. Oh, the big three automakers, you're not going to see electric cars. Forget about it. All of a sudden, they started to come in. Now, everybody and his brothers producing electric cars. You see electric charging stations everywhere. It's common. The same thing is going to happen with sustainability. And you can see it. It's growing everywhere. Every municipality is getting involved and doing what they can. Businesses are getting involved in what they can do. So the ball is now finally rolling, and it'll keep getting bigger and bigger. And it'll get to the point probably 3 years from now that it'll be like a common cup of coffee. It's something we do every single day. It won't be anything that is a no-brainer. We'll wake up in the morning, we'll do this, we'll go to bed, we'll do this. It'll be that kind of scenario.
I think how we address climate change will ultimately determine how great you are as a county or a city. We talk a lot about the costs to do these things, but there's a ton of benefits that we don't mention always in terms of what it will impact in the community. Montgomery County is probably one of the greatest counties across the country. Everyone wants to live here. If we don't get a handle on climate change, will that be the same sentiment in Montgomery County? If there are flooding, if there are deaths, greenhouse gas emissions, right? If there are hospitalizations because your kid is born with asthma, all of these different impacts that a lot of communities deal with each and every day from climate change. And I think, Montgomery County is looking at that in terms of how do we continue to be a leader as a county in terms of where people want to live, work, and play. And I really think that is a differentiator and will be in terms of what is your sustainability goals for your community. We see the impacts of climate change, as Tom just mentioned, in terms of the flooding, in terms of hospitalizations. We've seen the pandemic and what it does to Black and Brown communities. So we know that climate change disproportionately impacts minorities, and to be able to get in front of that and do these things, I think, is extremely important as a whole. And as Tom alluded to, I think one of the things that we've been really proud of at PEPCO is our contractor base of how many jobs our programs create. We allow our contracting community to really get out and spread the word. We hire and over 50 to 100 different contractors throughout Montgomery and Prince George's County to help promote and implement our programs on our behalf. And each of those contractors had 20 to 50 employees, and so you can imagine the amount of jobs that we employ, not directly but indirectly through being able to offer these programs. So I think sustainability is the next generation of a industry that is really going to help this country grow in a meaningful way, as well as put counties on the path to be competitive. So really excited to see what the county is doing.
I wanted to add to what Will said. I thought we did something on the Morning American about Madagascar and how they were showing all the brown people who are very poor, and they're not even a contributor to climate change, but because climate change, they've shown it where a lot of parts of Africa, it's much cleaner there, but because of pollution that comes from these Western countries such as our own, Russia or whatever, it affects them, and they don't have the money to invest in climate change. So I think Will's 100% correct. We as a community have to do what we can. Yeah, I know a lot of like baby boomers are moving to like Texas and Florida, and their parents are there, right? Because they're trying to get away from all the climate change stuff and the taxes and whatever. Well, we're in a different world now, and we have a lot more people. When I see what happened in Texas last winter, I think, thank God I don't live there. I mean, the grid, they didn't invest. We invested here. I remember I am a Pepco customer, and I remember on the post when they said Pepco was one of the worst utilities, and now we're one of the best in the country. And that's something that I know I'm proud of, being part of the utility, especially living in such a progressive county. So I do agree with Will 100%. It's not just like with COVID, we have to also vaccinate the poorer people, because we'll never get rid of it, right? If we think, oh, we're okay over here, well, we're not. We're a global community, and we all travel, go back and forth. So I think it is important. Climate change is not just from here. I think Montgomery County is trying to show, hey, we can make a difference, not just in our community, but our entire state. So I agree with that.
And globally.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think, I think it's wild. I'm still kind of weird. I still watch these kinds of shows, but ABC's doing a whole month on climate change, and I watch it every day, and it's really interesting to see. There's parts of Africa where they show how all this pollution is coming into that country, and they don't have all the factories and the gas. People think it's just in certain pockets, but it affects everybody. So, and we have to think about the poorer nations who don't have the money to invest. So, we are a rich country, regardless of what people say. We're still a rich country, and we have the manpower. We have so many businesses, and look what Amazon is doing, ExxonMobil, and all those other companies. They've got the money to help invest. We have to give back so we can all have a good. I know I have adult children now, but I would like for them not to have to wear a gas mask. 25 to 30 years, so, and their children, if they have them, so that's part of this, we're all in this together, I agree with Will.
It comes at a time when the G20 is also discussing climate action.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really opportune for us to.
So I want to thank all of our panelists. This has been really educational and so great that you work together and to provide all this information. Like you said, it's getting the word out there. It's not on the top of everyone's mind, but it's coming, it's coming. So that's great. So I want to thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.